Hello, welcome everyone. Super excited to be here today. Wanted to take a moment to continue our interview spotlight via video with another special guest, Miss Kayla May Tran. And I'm really excited to have her today because, I've known Kayla now close to going to like 6 months. But it's been an incredible just journey doing life with her, and learning about how she even got into, being a hairstylist and just her entrepreneurial journey. She specifically rents a room booth area at the Loft in the Fulton Market area. And, during this time that we're in phase 4 in Chicago here in Illinois, in terms of reopening, we were really curious to know about what it's like to be a hairstylist during this time, and how you're kind of navigating the space. So, to kick us off, Kayla, I'm really curious to know more about your entrepreneurial journey, and then also what influenced you to freelance as a hairstylist.
Yeah, so I started my career in a traditional salon setting. I was with my previous company for 6 years, and as I developed as a stylist and my book of business grew, the expectation of pace, of how much you produce really shifted. And personally, I wanted to create a much different experience for both my clients as guests and myself as an artist. I didn't want to lose the artistry of hair, and I certainly didn't want to lose the relational aspect of being a hairstylist, because for me, that is equal parts, love of hair and love of relationship. Hence how my studio started to come to life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kayla. I know that's a pretty big adventure for you to venture out on your own and to start your own studio. So as a hairstylist, you currently rent a room with the Loft in the Fulton Market. Can you share what prompted you to make the decision over owning your own hair salon? And then tell us a little bit about what's it like to work at the Loft, including how long you have been with them.
I have had a space at Salon Lost for 15 months. I feel like a mom. I'm like, my baby is 15 months old. But I celebrated my 1-year anniversary amidst the pandemic on April 29th. So certainly an unforgettable anniversary to celebrate. I certainly want to dream big enough to include other people and fit other people into the journey and bring them up with me. And while it's certainly in the vision, it just wasn't my immediate next step. There are a lot of things that I wanted to outwork as an individual, as knowing what it's like to even have a business and start to build a brand, before having people alongside me. So it is hopefully in the near future, that I'm taking one step at a time.
Thank you, Kayla. I actually appreciated something that I want to note that you talk about in terms of the entrepreneurial journey, right? Like, I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs just kind of in this space that you kind of want to jump on, but you're like, no, I need to start somewhere. And this is that somewhere for me. And then maybe later when you're like ready to bring on people to your space and like, let's do it. But it's respecting that season in your life. So I appreciate you highlighting that. It's amazing. And then you touched on something else, which leads to our next question, which is, nobody could have predicted this pandemic, the shutdown, everything. I mean, not even for a second. And there was a period of roughly 3 months where you couldn't see your clients. And the reason I even thought about you, I was very kind of, I don't even know, like heartfelt of just how you made sure to keep in touch with your clients during this time, but in a way to like remain sensitive to the time and space that we're in. And so I'm curious to know, and I know our audience is curious to know, tell us a little bit about how you approach this time in your career specifically, including any strategies that you utilize to keep in contact with your customer base while also remaining sensitive to the fact that we're in a pandemic.
Yeah, so what a funny time, absolutely, especially in the service industry where your entire business and career relies on person-to-person contact. So when I was thinking about what do I do during this time, how do I interact, I, from a consumer standpoint, realized that my inbox was flooded with COVID-19 update, temporarily closed, these things that just made me feel maybe more and more discouraged or more and more alone. And so while I was not able to give the service of hair during this time, I did realize that I still had the responsibility and ability to be able to provide what I promised when I first started this business, and that is a platform to encourage and empower others. And so I took it very seriously that I wanted my clients to feel the same way as when they entered my space and my studio, that I wanted them to feel inspired and uplifted after reading an email rather than feeling a little bit more disconnected and alone. And while I wasn't providing hair, I still spoke into your self-worth is not tied in your split ends or your roots. Other ways to practice self-care during this time, because I still think that that was a very important part of the quarantine season. I wanted to give enough information to where I was acknowledging that we were in a pandemic, though we didn't need a reminder of it. We all know we were in a global pandemic, but I wanted them to feel like they were still seen, they were still known, I still thought about them. So I included, playlists in my emails. So something that we could listen to together and enjoy during this time, and so that they still felt celebrated to the extent that I could be with them during quarantine.
Thank you. That's amazing. And I think that you brought up a very great point, Kayla, about self-care. And I think that during this unfortunate situation, many people have taken the time to identify, one, what is self-care? And, what does that look like for me? So when you just talked about, sometimes it's not your split ends or your roots, but just identifying overall what self-care is. So that's so important. Thank you for sharing that. Now, what have you found to be most challenging as an entrepreneur or freelancer, as Chicago is currently in phase 4 of reopening, and hopefully all goes well and we'll be able to move forward with phase 5. So how are you assisting some of your clients during this time?
So I was fortunate enough to be able to open during phase 3. So I have been back in business for a little bit over a month. We opened on June 3rd. And the goal for my clients, both figuratively and physically, is a space to be able to let your hair down. And so I'm more grateful now than ever to be in the loft space that I'm currently in. I personally feel like I have a lot more control and ownership of making sure that not only that my clients feel safe and cared for and that their wellness and health is my top priority, but making sure that that is the case, knowing that I have every bit of responsibility and, again, ability to be able to clean everything as thoroughly as possible, to be able to prepare for that nothing is crossed, that, clients, even physically, there's never one person in the door, one person out the door. The salon lofts has done a very great job of taking care of common space and common areas. And it's really nice right now that we live in an era of technology where we can shoot a text, or we can have, this is how many people are currently in the space. Like, you may enter. Now we have several access points of like different elevators, different staircases. Personally, in my loft, I would normally be serving like refreshments and beverages, and those things are put on hold right now while I'm selling retail. Nothing is out, so that it creates less touch points. Face masks, while they're an inconvenience and a little bit foreign, they work, and it's something to kind of chuckle about right now rather than bring, great attention to. And I think the most important thing is, you are a thermostat or a thermometer. You're either reading the temperature of the room or changing it. And I'm very, very grateful to be in a space where I have full control of being able to gauge and change how my clients feel in this space.
Thank you for that, Kayla. Actually, do you mind going a little bit more into detail? I mean, we have a couple of freelancers, entrepreneurs, small business owners that are tuning into this, and I'm sure they're curious to know, I mean, did the loft place any specific rules and regulations prior to you coming in and even throughout right now? What does that look like in terms of interactions with your customer base? Could you be a little bit specific with that?
The loft specifically decommissioned all shared areas. So shared seating, water fountains. If you go into the space, the only thing that, aside from the bathrooms, that is like a shared unit or shared space. So there's kind of like the state regulation, the city regulation. The thing that the loft did was changing the emails, notifications, and text messages that our clientele gets to remind them of procedures, specifically of coming in and out, of waiting outside of the building or in their car or in the downstairs area before, waiting until they hear from their stylists before coming up, to again, minimize that, not only to minimize the interaction of crossing over people, but to give enough time for each stylist to thoroughly clean before another enters. The wearing of face coverings, the minimizing, or not even minimizing, but there are just no handshakes and hugs at this time, those kinds of things. But truly, from the Salon Loft platform, it's basically the common areas that they're really responsible for, and you as a business impose whatever things above that you want. And for me specifically, that's my retail, that's the beverage bar. I request that my clients don't speak when we're in the shampoo bowl, because that's when we're, face to face, and we're just that much closer to one another. Everything is cashless right now. Normally I do my transactions with an iPad, and right now I'm the only person with an iPad, and I fill everything out for them. So just things that, this virus, or however this is playing out, it's very, very simple, small steps that you can ensure that you create a safe environment for everyone.
Wow, Kayla, I love talking at the shampoo bowl, so I don't know how that would work out for me. But no, I respect that. That's very, very true. I didn't realize that. You just brought up a very important point of that face-to-face contact that you can have with the client. And, sometimes in talking, things can just escape, our mouth without even noticing. So, wow, that's interesting. Wow. So in closing, Miss Kayla, think about, and just, this is a time for you to just really spread advice and final words of encouragement. When you think about your counterparts that are entrepreneurs and freelancers, what words of advice, and how can you just, inspire them as we continue to move forward with the reopening phases, or just thinking about what you just talked about with the current phase we're in? How can you just motivate your colleagues and counterparts to stay focused and not get discouraged?
Like we touched on earlier, one step at a time, one day at a time. It is so very overwhelming to think of steps 3, 4, and 5, and it could be deterring to making that initial step of just opening, or of just informing your clients, or of making a touch point in relationship again. But I'm thankful that there are so many resources like ChiBizHub that we can encourage one another. We can find information. It's very, very accessible. So use every platform that you can. Use all the resources that you have. Again, one step at a time. Even if it's a micro step, it is still a step. As well as, I was worried that, or I wasn't aware that my clients were as excited to see me as I was to see them. And while there is very, very much a heavy and large responsibility of making sure that the practicals are taken care of, more than anything right now, people just want to feel like themselves. They want to know that you are still their hairstylist, you are still their bartender, you are still, their physical trainer, XYZ, and that that relationship still holds true regardless of circumstance. And your business, as much as your character, is exactly that. It is who you are regardless of circumstance. And so one step at a time, and remember why you started in the first place, and know that people are just as ready and as excited and anticipating your opening as you are.
Thank you for that, Kayla. It was really such a pleasure to interview you today. We can't wait to share your story, because I know that there's so many that are part of the ChiBizHub community that are going to appreciate it and just really resonate with this, right? You touched on it earlier. What ChiBizHub is trying to do is really just, connect everyone. You all have it's different but similar journeys as an entrepreneur, as a freelancer, and to know that, we're all in this together, genuinely. That's, the best thing that we can do. So thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for creating this space and the resources that you have. It truly means the world as an entrepreneur. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Have a great day.